Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the DCI number 845. This is a set of flush bolts in the 32D finish. And the 845 is a set of, it's a combination of two different bolts where you have an automatic bolt feature generally at the bottom of the door. And then you have a manual trigger requirement where you can depress generally at the top. Okay, this is the 805 is the top bolt. The 840 is the bottom bolt. And when you take an 805 and an 840 and you put them on the same door, it's an 845. By DCI. So where are you going to use these types of bolts? Well, installations where you must have self-latching, you must have positive latching, you must have fire rating, you have obviously a pair of doors, and you have a condition by which you cannot have for NFPA requirements a door that will be manually locked in an instance where manual flush bolts would not be permitted. Let's dive into that. So first of all, the extended description. 805 top bolt, 840 bottom bolt, non-handed, minimal force required to activate that bolt. Manufactured with an override feature to prevent damage to the door or bolt. Okay, yeah, so it just has a clutch is what's on here. So if the door becomes, if there is a condition in the floor where the plunger, and there are two different bolts, obviously the latching bolt will be at top, and the bolt itself, the bolt style, the latch will be at the top, the bolt will be at the bottom. If there's a condition that this cannot engage, that clutch that's in there, if I restrain that from moving, if I restrain it, that door will still close. I can't say that it's going to close automatically. It takes a lot of pressure to actually push that closed. Lots of pounds. High quality material. Engineered to function in high frequency areas with minimal maintenance. Sure, of course. Flush bolts like this are set it and forget it. Different finishes can be done on this material. You're dealing with a 3-hour fire rating for metal doors up to 4 foot by 10 foot for obviously a single inactive leaf, an 8010. Is ANSI BHMA A156.16 listed, positive pressure compliant. Is going to give you a specialty strike plate at the top, a curved lip strike, where you would obviously need that for a latch. There's a link below this video to a document called Product Information, and that is really the place to give you an overview of the 845 and its sister product, the 945, which is appropriate for use in a wood door. Self-latching flush bolts will engage via the curved lip strike, which I'll show you, as the inactive door closes, locking the inactive door. The top bolt will remain locked until the plunger is depressed on the face of the bolt. The bottom bolt, an automatic flush bolt, will engage the sill and frame only when the strike on the active door, only when the active door is closed, hitting the strike that's on the active door, and will be released when the active door is opened. Manufactured, American made. The bottom line is this: every time the door is closed, the bottom's going to be latched. Every time the door opens, the bottom is unlatched. Okay. Every time you want to open that inactive door, all you need to do is open the active door, push the button, and that will fly open for you. Okay. This gives you the compliance of your fire-rated doors being latching, is the important part. With a set of automatic flush bolts, you need to have a coordinator. No doubt about a coordinator being required. A coordinator is really a different video, I suppose, but the bottom line is a coordinator is a device that basically says, wait, active door, we have to let the inactive door get into position first. That's so the inactive door is at a 0 degree, then the active door can come and close and push the trigger on the side to get that inactive door latched at the bottom. It will automatically be latched at the head because of the automatic flush bolt. It will as soon as the door closed, it'll be latched, which complies. However, you can't have the active door closed first and then the inactive door try to close. This trigger will prevent it from working, from probably closing. But more so, really, what will happen is you probably have an astragal on the door. So you have a physical or a mechanical conflict where you need a coordinator. The inactive door has to close first. The active door will then close and secure that bottom latch. And that's why these are used. They're used because they are compliant with fire code, where manual bolts would not be compliant. An instance where manual bolts are not compliant is when it is any time other than an opening that would be like a mechanical or electrical closet where you have a pair of doors that are fire rated. When there is no human occupancy on the opposite side of that door, it would be generally permissible to have manual flush bolts. But when you get out of that application, when you have human occupancy potential on the egress side, manual flush bolts are not permissible. And that's the bottom line. And that's where these bolts come in. So that link to the product brochure is handy because it will give you a look at what I just read to you. Its listings. The override spring prevents damage to doors or bolts that should the bolt head be unable to extend into the top or bottom strike. I'm not really sure where the override feature is coming in on the bottom. I mean, that's going to be attached. So every time that presents itself to the strike, I don't understand what might be preventing that from closing. But again, that override feature on the bottom is obvious. Low closing force. Patented free-floating cams require less than 5 pounds of closing force of the active door to extend both top and bottom bolts. So the inactive door is going to be latched at the top because of the low force. This is the 5 pounds of force on the bottom. You need that. 5 pounds is the permissible maximum on handicap compliant doors. Fire code does override ICC. I forget the code for handicap compliance. Regardless, fire rated code does override handicap code. Those doors must self-close and latch. Adjustable bolt rod heads. Sure, the bolts can be adjusted for unusual clearances. An adjustment of 1 1/4 is available on the 845 series. Half inch for the 945. Low inventory. Basically what they're saying about low inventory is all of this stuff, regardless of the finish, doesn't matter. The only thing that's going to change are the trim plates. Available in lots of finishes. Your 605 for polished brass, 606 for satin brass, 612 satin bronze, 613 oil rub bronze, 625 polished chrome, 626 satin chrome, 629 polished stainless, 630 for satin stainless. And that exhausts everything that's on the product information. There's next a link to the template, which is included with the hardware naturally. And because these are intended for use on metal doors and fire-rated metal doors, you're not going to be cutting these in the field unless you are a licensed, approved person to do so, meaning you hold that permission in advance of doing the work, which is possible. So let's do a review of the rest of the parts before we look at the template and check out and see what exactly is happening with that. Let's do a tour of the parts that you're going to get. That curved lip strike is going to have to be up in the header so that the bolt will present itself to the face and get latched. Okay, it's probably 2 3/4. 2 3/4. Overall width, about 1 7/8, but these are of course measured from the center line of the screw hole to the edge of the lip. That looks like it's about 1 7/16. 1.5 inches. Definitely made of stainless with a brushed finish. You're going to get a top guide for your bolt to ride through. That's going to get installed in the top of the door, assuming your door is going to be prepped for it. Here's your hardware. Okay. Moving down the door. As we move down the door, the next thing we're going to be presented with is the strike that's going to be attached to the edge of the active door so that when it closes, it'll hit the trigger. That gets screwed directly to the edge of the door. Overall height, 1 1/4 inches. Overall width, about 1 3/4 inches. Then we have the bottom guide for the bottom door, for the bottom bolt. So that'll look, depending on how it's going to be installed, it could easily look like that in the bottom of the door. A strike for the floor. Should be, what is that? 2 1/4 by 15/16. 2 1/4. Yeah, 15/16. Face plates. Top face plate. Bottom face plate. Okay, bottom face plate. Going to be the same size. These are 6 3/4 by 1. 6 3/4 by 1. Stainless brushed finish, stainless base material. Screws for everything. Even a couple of plastic anchors for the strike. Now, that template we talked about earlier. Obviously, fire-rated doors going to be prepped at the factory. You're not going to do it in the field after the fact, even though there would be nothing technically difficult about prepping the doors for these, unless you are under license service with UL, Warnock Hersey Factory Mutual. You wouldn't be prepping this because you'd violate the fire rating of the material. But dimensionally, technically, from a welding perspective, there's nothing difficult about doing this sort of work. Your preparation is basically going to be, because of the set of bolts that we're dealing with, the top of the door to the center of the faceplate is 12 inch. The bottom of the door to the center of the faceplate is 12 inch. That's an important dimension. Okay. Your prep is 6 3/4 by 1. You have to do a prep in the top of the door and the bottom of the door as well to account. I didn't give you those dimensions just because we've done that. Overall width of these guides, about 1 7/8 inches. Overall width, length and width, 1 inch. Overall height, about 5/8. Looking at the template installation instructions, they give dimensions for everything. Okay, great. We've covered that. You can see in a cross section on page 1 how that top bolt is going to be installed. Basically what you do is you take this, thread it down, sneak it through the hole in the edge of the door, out your guide, test your operation, and if it's too long or too short, take it out, readjust it, reinsert it till you get to the point where it is exactly where you need it to be, so that you are not exiting here so that this will fall out, or exiting down here so that it will fall out and then not work again. It has to always stay right here. That's a square prep for a reason. You don't want to lose that bolt. You do the same process on the bottom. It's the same situation. The bottom you might need to tinker with a little bit more because you will have an undercut. You'll have a threshold. You'll have an unusual floor condition, let's say. And the bottom bolt is detailed on page 2. But again, dimensional properties of everything, including the strike. The lip of the strike on the active door needs to be on the egress side if they're swinging away from you. Lots of hollow metal doors have a flush top channel and an inverted bottom channel. Lots of hollow metal doors have inverted top and bottom channels. If they're inverted, you'll put them like this, you know, into your inverted channel. But again, if the door has been ordered from the factory prep for this, it'll be prepped for it. It'll be made to account for it. And there's really nothing else on the installation instructions that is worthy of review, except that you could have an 805 top bolt, and then you can omit the bottom bolt, assuming that you're going to be putting the fire bolt, the 8BFB, onto the opening. That could be permissible as well. A fire bolt is basically a scenario where there's an intumescent sort of concept. Certain temperature is reached, and that fire bolt in the active door is going to fire into a plug. Forgive me, I've said that backwards. The fire bolt in the inactive door is going to fire into the plug in the active door, securing the two together in that sort of scenario. Again, it's easy to prep for these. You're just going to create a 6 3/4 by 1 prep, have your mounting tabs, hopefully for flush bolts, welded in. You'll attach your hardware to it, but you're not going to be doing it in the field, unless, of course, you are. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the DCI products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Now, I'm a fan of DCI, and it's because... Why am I? Let me tell you why. Because they're incredibly no-nonsense people, meaning they've got a line of products that they keep on the shelf that they ship out quick. Good quality products as well. I will seek to use them in instances where I'm able to use them. I look to shoehorn them into projects, and if I have my druthers, I can select the hardware manufacturer and will very often use them as my go-to. Because I appreciate excellent customer service, as I'm sure you do, and quality products and a fair price, and being able to pick the phone up, and I think the owner is 10 feet away from the person who answered the phone, possesses an expert level knowledge of trim and auxiliary hardware, and there's not a lot of questions that I might have on much of what they sell, but some of the things they sell I don't have a lot of experience with. And these are not just people who are importing stuff from overseas. And while they do bring in some stuff, they're high-end material, like the 845, the 945. That's all domestically manufactured. And that's a fact that they are proud of, as am I to represent them. If you know the name DCI, it may not be for flush bolts or door stops. It might be for their Panex series of specialty exit devices. And for a long time, I would see their Panex name in a specification. And that's DCI. That link, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the DCI products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. And if you have more than an occasional need for flush bolts and door stops and kick-down door holders and things of that nature, I would review their catalog because they're nimble, they stock it, and it just moves. They're centrally located. But if you're looking for some electrified hardware, especially electric latch retraction on exit devices and power supplies, I would look to them as well, because that same excellent customer service and tech support is going to flow through to the material that's a lot more complicated than just a set of flush bolts. As you can tell, I'm partial to them, and it's because they earn it. If you have any questions on the DCI, their part number 845 and a 32D finish, self-latching set of automatic flush bolts, or any other DCI product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.